You are playing Gekko wrong, but let me explain why. Gekko, as the newest agent in Valorant, has taken over the initiator role, having the highest pick rate of any initiator in the game, but time after time, I see Gekko being played incorrectly both in low and high ranks. So let's talk about how you should be playing Gekko. Gekko's big gimmick is that his abilities are all reclaimable, allowing you to pick them up after they are used to be reused 10 seconds later. It's what makes him a powerful character. Where someone like Breach can only flash twice and has to wait 40 seconds between stuns, Gekko can pick up 3 of his 4 abilities and keep reusing them to generate more value in a round than characters like Breach, Skye, and KO. However, if you're not using this mechanic to your advantage, you are simply getting less value than those other agents, and you really just shouldn't be playing Gekko. But how do you fix this, and how do you take advantage of this reclaiming system? Well, it's about changing how you use your abilities, and more importantly, not being afraid to use them. Let's start with changing how you use Gekko's abilities. While this is a bigger issue in lower ranks, I see Gekko players in lower ranks repeatedly using their flash like a skybird, trying to put it in a location that is hard to shoot for the enemy, which is good on paper. The issue arises in the fact that it often leads to Dizzy, his flash ability, being stuck in bad locations that are hard to reclaim. So let's think about this scenario on Ascent. You could flash by throwing it through the window, making enemies have to move their crosshair up and away from the choke point. Or you could throw it across the choke point, still upwards, and have it nicely land on the other side. This accomplishes almost the exact same thing, but you can now reclaim it to then use it again to push out of garage if you need to. Or you can use it to rotate if you decide not to push the site at all. It also removes any chance of Dizzy landing on top of a roof where you wouldn't be able to reclaim it. This can also work the other way around. However, one of the best parts about Dizzy is not the flash, it's the information you can gain that can be really powerful. If Dizzy even sees an enemy, regardless of if they get blinded, it will make a noise. That means you can do things like throw Dizzy straight upwards to get information, then reclaim it since it fell directly onto you and redo that 10 seconds later. This is huge on maps where you can throw him high enough to get over walls, like Ascent or Pearl. It essentially costs nothing to use the ability since you'll get him back 10 seconds later and you just get extra free information. Unlike someone like Sover or Skye, who will have to wait a whole 40 seconds to be able to reuse the ability, and enemies may take advantage of this by pushing within those 40 seconds. But Dizzy isn't the only ability you should be thinking about reclaiming. Wingman is a very potent ability, but I often see it getting thrown around like a Raze boombot. With Raze, you don't get to reclaim it, so you often throw it in a direction you have no plans on going to get some information. Sure, a lot of the time you will push with it, but you might want to use it to push A short while you push A long on Haven. With Wingman, you want to think about where he's going to stop running as you can reclaim him. You want to use the ability in locations that you plan to push into and own the space, not just temporarily walk through. This allows you to reclaim him and reuse him, and is actually leading me nicely into another issue. A lot of people save Wingman to be the planter and diffuser every round, not wanting to use the ability without the bomb. However, this is the wrong usage of him. A lot of the time, Wingman's boombot-like potential is the most powerful, and playing in a way where you can reclaim him can let you do both. For example, you can use Wingman to clear Hook on Bind, but then reclaim him to go plant once your teammates control the site. In essence, don't be afraid to just throw Wingman like a boombot. If played right, you should be able to reclaim him and still use him to plant or defuse, which is some of the most fun Gekko plays you can do. Now, let's talk about Thrash, Gekko's ult. Thrash is another ability that can be reclaimed, but it's a lot more powerful, and how you play around it should change because of the ability for it to be reclaimed. Thrash is great at pushing, and it has a pretty long range. The issue is people often use the entire range just to chase down enemies, which is fine, but oftentimes you'll get more value using your last couple of seconds of Thrash maneuvering it into a position that can be easily reclaimed. You can only reclaim Thrash once, but 2 Thrash activations can mean you get 1 for pushing the site and another for post plant, or you can use it to get lots of information early and then reuse it again for a retake on defense. Thinking about where Thrash ends is majorly important, and is something I feel a lot of players don't do. The idea of detaining someone and getting that free kill is so invigorating that people will do anything to try and get it. A lot of it comes with time with the character, knowing how the abilities move and where they'll end up, but whenever you pull out your Gekko util, just think, where is this going to land? And that applies for all 3 abilities. However, sometimes util just doesn't land where you want it to. Another huge issue I see players make is going to reclaim util when you really shouldn't. Sometimes Dizzy or Wingman or especially Thrash can end up in the middle of nowhere, but know that it does make a sound when you start claiming it, and enemies are likely ready to spray you down. Just think about it like claiming an ult orb. Would you claim an ult orb in that situation? If not, don't claim your abilities. However, this also leads me into a point about playing against Gekko. You should be camping his abilities once they are on the ground. Players love util, and Gekkos are likely to go back to their abilities and try to get more util out of the round, since that's the reason they're playing Gekko. You are playing against a Gekko, be sure to protect the enemy Dizzy, Wingman, or Thrash to stop Gekko from reusing it. This is especially true of Thrash, which is a fun and powerful ability that people will try to reclaim because it's a lot of fun to use. But this video is about playing Gekko. So why did I just go on a whole tangent about how to play against him? Well, it's because you can use this to your advantage. Most higher ranked players will know to camp Gekko util the same way you can camp guns on an enemy save round or bodies when Sage has res. However, you can tap your buddies the same way you tap an ult orb to bait out a peek. Or you can purposely throw out util, and it's likely to keep players on a site until it expires because they want to make sure you're not reclaiming it. However, it is just as important to know that players should be camping your util, so keep that in mind when you are reclaiming. Part of the key of playing a character really well is knowing how enemies react to your character. And so that's a key part of playing Gekko correctly, is knowing how your util affects how your enemies are playing. Alright, so we've talked about reclaiming. You should be throwing Dizzy into your own space, Wingman into space you're about to take, and Thrash should be maneuvered at the last second to get into a safe space to pick up. In addition, being aware of enemies camping util and being in a safe environment with teammates to hold you while you pick up util is key. Gekko really is a team player and should be with someone almost all of the time. But that's not all. Let's talk about something that is huge. Even up in Diamond and Ascendant, I have seen people do this. I have seen people send Wingman as the first person onto site with the bomb. Yes, this will reveal one enemy's location who will spam and kill Wingman. However, this also abandons bomb in the middle of site. I think that this is obvious to most players, but Wingman should not be first. Stranding your spike is a terrible thing to happen and will lose rounds on its own. So, what should you be using the Wingman plant for? Well, you should think of it as being the ability for Gekko to plant and have his gun out at the same time. You send Wingman to plant in a space that you and your team own. Then you hold your own Wingman as it plants, making sure that it doesn't get shot. That's how the ability should be used, and it actually lets you reuse Wingman after the plant way more easily because you are throwing him into own space, not at your enemies. Again, Wingman plant is to hold your own plant, making it safer. It also means any util that would be used on the person planting will instead go on to Wingman, and if it does kill him, you should be close by to pick up the bomb and start planting again, not across the map. Now, we've talked about playing for his ability to pick up his util, as well as how Wingman should be used for post plants, but we've yet to talk about one ability that can't be picked up, that being Mosh Pit. Mosh Pit is a pretty standard molly, but there's one key difference that changes how you should be playing with it compared to something like a Viper or Brimstone molly. Mosh Pit is more of a grenade, where it does one big burst of damage rather than damage over time. Because of this, one mistake I see Gekko players make is assuming that players won't or can't push through it. Since there is no damage until the last tick, players can and will peek or sneak by the Mosh Pit, taking little to no damage while doing so. This is an important difference, as it means you have to be slightly more conscious of how and where you use the ability. The best way to use Mosh is to use it to hard clear angles that may be tricky to peek, to get players off the bomb, or to assist in holding an angle, by throwing it down but still being cautious of the quicker players trying to get over it, especially characters like Raze, Jet, and Neon. Overall, Gekko is a very fun character, but I feel like a lot of his abilities are being misused because they seem so simple. If you want to get the pro level power of Gekko, make sure you're playing for his reclaim ability, using Wingman's plant and diffuse abilities correctly, and understanding the way Mosh Pit actually works. If you guys found this video useful and want to see more content like this, or more of the you are playing X character wrong, let me know in the comments down below what character you want to see me do next. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.